Welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Axion,
I'm Scint.
and we are continuing through Undertale and our discussion of Redwall by Brian Jacques.
Undertale, for all its design, for all its minimalist, low poly design, it's just such really good ambiance. Sorry, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I just like Undertale.
It's a good game.
That's word for word Yahtzee's review of it. Undertale is a good game. Back to the top 5 list.
I have not seen...
He didn't do a separate video. He was doing his top mediocre and bottom 5 of the year. So I could only include games I've done. Hold that thought a second. Then ran off to do his one-sentence review of Undertale and came back. Anyway, our topic today is, well, what actually saved Redwall? Because they make such a big deal about needing the sword. Because without the sword of Martin the Warrior, we can't hope to fend off the army. So, to fend off an entire invading army... Hi, Undyne. That's Papyrus. We need to have, well, one weapon. One weapon will let us fend off an entire army of hundreds. Now, Axion, I might not be much of a military history buff or a math person in much of any regard, but I don't think that math works out. What do you think?
On the one hand, no, not in normal circumstances. On the other hand, I've played Dynasty Warriors where one person literally can destroy an entire enemy army.
Yeah, but how do you do that in Dynasty Warriors? Actually, tell me, because I've never played it.
Well, usually the character you pick has a weapon, and you run around and trash all of the enemies in the area.
I wasn't sure, like, do you have magic, or...
Some characters do, but most don't. Most just have fancy weapons.
And we've mentioned, like, the Sword of Martin the Warrior doesn't appear to be especially fancy. Like, at least not as they say it here. But it's sentimentally important to Redwall, and they, again, don't really have anything in the way of weapons beyond, like, kitchen knives.
Yep.
Now, other books do say that, like, it's forged from, like, star metal, but, you know. We don't know that here.
I was about to say, that's just a bunch of legends that have built up around it just over the years since Martin, I presume, died.
Probably. But, yeah. Honestly, I don't know if they really needed the sword. Because the main reason Matthias was, fighting Clooney alone was because, well, Clooney was, smart enough to realize I need to get in somehow, so used subterfuge to get in and had literally everybody else captive. So Matthias was simply not there to be captured. And given that really all he does to defeat Clooney is drop a bell on him, he could have done that with a kitchen knife.
Well,
take a little longer.
I was about to say, it probably would have taken longer than Clooney would have given him to cut through the bell rope.
I don't know, because do you remember at the end, he did tell Clooney, alright, I promise I'll come down if you let them go. And Clooney was waiting for him, knowing that the heroes would keep their word. Which, he does. He dropped the bell on him and killed him and then came down, but he still kept his word and came down. So I don't know if he really needed the sword to do that. But it could have just been a morale thing, much like the tapestry was earlier.
It also contributed to Clooney's building paranoia over the dream he's had, because that made Matthias resemble Martin all the more.
Yep. But I do actually want to talk about the main reason I had proposed this episode when we were talking about what we wanted to talk about. That's a meta sentence, but it is. Was recruiting allies. Or, as I put down in our notes, the real sort of Martin the Warrior was the army we recruited along the way.
And that is a big part of the story, is Matthias, and to some extent some of the other characters like Constance, going out and making allies.
Well, I don't think Constance actually leaves to make any allies. She leaves to go deal with some problems on her own. Like when they try to blackmail Redwall for information that could be useful in saving them. Matthias is the only one who's actually leaving, which is interesting again because, well, he's kind of just giving carte blanche to do so. Which is odd considering he's like a very lowly ranked person in the Abbey at this time. But
he's just one of the orphans. He's not even a brother at the start of the story. He's just, or if he is, he's an apprentice, I think.
Yeah, I'm just classifying him as low rank because, like, he's not one of the brothers, but he's too old to be one of the really little kids.
Yeah. So he's fairly young. He's not anyone of any real importance. And he's had no real training or anything like that.
But no one else in the Abbey has really had any training for what they're doing, and, well, he's young and able-bodied in what's about to be a war situation. He would be, like, highest priority to keep around, especially since he's one of the ones who kind of starts, leading the training when it does actually happen. But as soon as he is revealed to be, and that is, Martin's successor, do whatever you want, kid.
And that's kind of the thing, is he gets this permission to do whatever he wants. And from that point on, well, really from the point where he and Methuselah start deciphering all of the records and they find the inscription on the wall, and they determine that that is referring to Matthias. Nobody questions at all what he does from that point on.
Well, I guess you should check the law. But yeah, Matthias spends a lot of the book kind of bumbling around trying to find the missing sword, and in the process recruits basically 2 armies and a hair, who's almost an army by himself just because he's a trained combat vet who knows how to move around the battlefield without getting himself hurt. So we have Battlestag Harry pulls in. He inadvertently manages to recruit the Sparrow tribe by helping instate Warbeak by killing Bullsparrow. Hello, Undyne.
Running time. Well, that's what I was hoping to avoid.
And then, honestly, more to the point is he recruits the entire shrew army, the guerrilla union of shrews and mossflower, Gwassim, after he defeats Asmodeus. So, yeah, finding the sword probably would have helped for morale, but if he hadn't also been recruiting every ally he could manage in the process, I don't know if having one sword would have made that big a difference.
Not really, no.
So, because, yeah, Clooney does face Matthias one-on-one, but I think it's also because, like, Logalog and the rest of the army have Clooney's forces pretty well occupied at the time. I don't think Clooney, who has been paranoid about the Mouse of the Tapestry, would have, if he had any alternative, agreed to do a fair one-on-one duel. But with a spare army showing up out of nowhere, doesn't really have as much leverage to get out of it. That was close. But yeah, everybody just kind of gives it to the sword, I think, for credit, just because it has so much mythos built around it. I guess like our modern equivalent would be someone finds the Lance of Longinus and in the process recruits an entire army, but we blame getting the spear rather than the hundreds of people as backup. The hundreds of people with actual combat training as backup. Nope, it's the one mythical artifact we found.
But that's also kind of historically accurate. How often has history had where, or, well, mythology would probably be more accurate to put it, but it is to some degree historical in a lot of ways that we have this item of great historical importance and societal relevance to our culture, and if we can just get our hands on this thing, it'll give us the the capability of winning this war, or will rally the troops in some way and turn the tide of battle.
I forgot about that.
Yep, sans prank.
Yep.
Hey, it's Ice Cream Dude.
Like, I guess there is something to that, but I don't know, like, how much relevant, because it also kind of breaks the spirit of the opposite side in some degree, if it comes to that, but no one outside of Redwall really knows the significance of the sword. They follow Matthias not because he has this mythical weapon, but because, well, he did them a favor. He killed Asmodeus, which he could have done with any weapon, because, again, he didn't do it because the sword was super sharp, he did it because he found a place to hide and wait for the right minute to strike. He could have done it with a spear.
Yep, or with any weapon that could have worked in narrow quarters.
But yeah, like, I think it's just kind of coming down to, do we overvalue the power of myth when it actually comes down to tactics? Because Clooney was the only one in his army who was at all bothered by the existence of Martin the Warrior. So yeah, if he hadn't had all these paranoid dreams, it wouldn't have made a bit of difference. So there is something to be said there, but he didn't even understand the significance of it. The Gwassim and, the Sphera tribe didn't really have the context for why it was important, just that, okay, cool, you got your sword back, I guess we're friends now. they're not there because of the myth of Martin the Warrior, they're there because of Matthias.
Yep.
So the sword's almost more of just a plot device to get him out of the Abbey and doing things, rather than actually serving a major tactical purpose.
But that's not all that abnormal in these kinds of stories or in fantasy stories in general.
Which actually I was going to say is going to come up real soon with the Elder Wand, which we'll get to next book.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know, like, I guess it can kind of also look at Arthurian legend with Excalibur, but...
Yep, that was exactly the one I was thinking of, is Arthur goes on the journey to get Excalibur, and while he doesn't construct his full round table before he gets it from either the Lady of the Lake or pulling it from the stone, depending on which version of the legend you're reading, and again, we'll get to that eventually. But he does meet a few of his knights, or eventually his knights, along the way. And how much of that is, yeah, he got the sword that marks him as the king for whatever reason, but he also made the allegiance of these capable knights. And
Yep.
collected this force that gave him the power to back up his authority.
I kind of think it's probably better to say, like, when he gained the allegiance, he proved his worth, not just by pulling the sword out of a rock where it's been laying for a while. He behaved in such a way that earned their allegiance. Which is, I guess, what Matthias does. Like, he stands up to a tyrant facing King Volspera, and though he doesn't personally kill him, he is instrumental in bringing him down.
Yep.
He kills Asmodeus, who's been terrorizing the forest for years, and is basically just a local boogeyman at this point, except he's horribly real.
Kind of like Clooney.
Yeah, so Matthias, with King Volspera, he didn't even need the sword to do it. So it's... I don't know, like, I know it's a very common fantasy trope, but it just seems a little odd that, like, there's almost no... Compared to how important they find getting the sword back, there's very little weight given to how much help the other forces provided. Like, yeah, there's a feast, but Redwall has a feast every 5 minutes.
Yep. You can drop a hat and come up with some reason to for the abbot to
Order
declare
a
feast. And there's enough members of the populace of Redwall who are all too happy to do whatever it takes to
more food
to put together the necessary stuff for a feast. Like, there's that one, I think, was it a shrew or was it a vole who was like,
hi. I forgot about him.
But yeah, there's that one character near, or maybe he was a mouse, I don't remember, but he was one of the brothers of the Abbey, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go fishing and we're gonna get a really big fish. And they got a really big fish, and everybody spends the first part of the story talking about how big the fish that he and Matthias got was. And that's a recurring thing that keeps coming up during the story, is like they're talking about, oh, we need to go fishing again, and we need to go get another really big fish, and the next one will be even bigger than this one. And if I remember correctly, the story ends with that final feast celebrating the defeat of Clooney and Matthias being named Martin's successor as the guardian of the Abbey. and there's a section of the description that's straight up says, and then they went and got another big fish with that one brother once again.
Alf,
Yeah,
who becomes Abbott, actually.
yeah, and he goes and gets another.
Yep. So yeah, I don't know. It just seems uneven to me. Yeah, they get some recognition in the sense of what a great pity that it took so much blood shed to unite us all. Henceforth, the sparrows may come and go as they wish. They must share our food and use our abbey, not only the roof, but all of it. These good gorilla shrews also. No longer will they be as gypsies roaming the woods. They will have a proper home here at Redwall as long as they wish.
Which, that choice of wording did not age well.
It did not. And then, Matthias, we're not going to make you a brother. You get to be the champion, and yeah. So, yeah. Just, okay, you guys are welcome to come here whenever you want, which everybody in the forest was basically already doing. So, it just seems a little bit uneven. You found a pointy stick. And now you, who lost many of your brethren in helping defend our abbey. Doors open. Good to see you. I don't know, like, I do get the importance of myth and special art and the inspiration of old artifacts of legend, but yeah, I'm just talking in circles at this point.
Yep, but I think we've kind of solved that. Run this conversation this particular conversation runs course.
Yep. So we will see you next time. Bye.
See you then.